Welcome back to the Deliberate Exchange. I'm so happy that you're here. Now, before we get into this topic, I want you to take a deep breath with me, real quick, just right now. Taking a big inhale through your nose, all the way in, all the way up. And exhale. There it is. So I tell you to take a deep breath because we're talking about chronic stress. And probably if you are living with chronic stress, you need to breathe more. Now, before you hit pause thinking, yeah, I already know that I'm stressed, I want you to stay with me, right? Because if you are saying like, yeah, I know I'm already stressed, like what are we doing about it? What I'm sharing today isn't just about stress. It's about the patterns that we can't see because like we're living inside of them and we're really close. This is about talking about why we're so exhausted, we feel disconnected, and how hard we are on ourselves, even when we seem to be doing everything right. Now, of course, I know this one pretty intimately. I've lived it, and I want to help you see it with fresh eyes. I don't want to shame or blame or any of that, but I want to give you the language and the tools and some space so that you can actually breathe again. So let me start about like my history with chronic stress. Now, I used to think that I was just a high achiever, always busy, always striving, always on. I had to-do lists, I had tight schedules. I loved being busy, and I love when people like ask me like how I'm doing, like, oh, like I'm really busy or like living the dream. And I also had this feeling in my chest, like if I stopped even for just a second, that everything would fall apart. And I wore it like a badge of honor, like productive, capable, together. Underneath all of that, I was anxious all of the fucking time. I didn't sleep all that well. I cried more than I would care to admit. I overthought everything and I wouldn't let anybody in on like the discourse that was happening in my brain. I couldn't relax, like even during the things that I was supposed to enjoy. I was snappy with the people that I loved, and I couldn't figure out why I felt like I was always barely keeping my head above water. And spoiler alert, it was chronic stress. But I didn't recognize it. It had become so deeply ingrained and had become like my new normal, my new baseline. And maybe that has for you too. And so let's talk about like what is chronic stress, like actually. Chronic stress isn't just about having a lot going on. It's when your body and your nervous system are stuck in a perpetual survival loop, a constant state of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, even after the actual stressful event or the danger is gone. Your brain is doing its job, which, like, God bless that. It's trying to keep you safe. But in today's worlds, the threats are not tigers and fires. It's emails and expectations and unresolved trauma, childhood conditioning, disconnection, and that constant pressure to do and be and have more all of the time. And your brain doesn't know the difference between an actual physical threat and a perceived one. And so it responds the same way with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Those are really, really good, really, really important hormones to have for short-term danger, like getting away from the tiger or the fire. But over time, that gets toxic. So this is how our body is impacted by chronic stress. Your nervous system gets stuck in that high alert. Your cortisol keeps pumping, and that messes with your hormones, your thyroid, your menstrual cycles, your digestion, your sleep cycles. Your immune system gets suppressed, so you get sick more often. Your muscles always stay tense, especially in your neck, your shoulders, your jaw, your hips. And sleep, like, good luck. It's interrupted, restless, or non-existent. And here's something that I had to learn the hard way. Your body will start to whisper with signs like bloating or fatigue or headaches or mood swings, or even I remember driving to work before I got out of the industry, and I broke out into an allergic reaction, like hives. And I have a peanut allergy and a shellfish allergy. So that was like my first default, thinking like, oh, I just ate peanuts from like the bagel I got from Tim Hortons. But I was actually having a stress response. I was going into a job that I didn't love anymore, an office that was toxic, and my body was saying, okay, we're in danger now. We're trying to send you a warning sign, a smoke signal, and you're not listening. That was it screaming because I wasn't listening. And like I had those unexplained health symptoms for years before I understood what the root was. And it was the nervous system burnout. So now mentally, like the brain and how it is impacted by chronic stress, it actually shrinks the prefrontal cortex. And that's the part of your brain that's responsible for logic and decision making and self-control. And so no wonder I was making really irrational decisions, and my logic was impaired, and I had no self-control, to be perfectly honest. And then it enlarges the amygdala. This is where your fear and emotion center lives. So I was more reactive and anxious and overwhelmed all the time. And add all of that in with over drinking, and let's be real, and I've talked about it in this previous episodes. One of our society's best ways to deal with stress is alcohol, and that is absolutely the antithesis to what you should be doing. Now, considering what happens with the brain, if you are chronically stressed, that's probably why you have a hard time focusing, or you're forgetting things, or you second guess yourself. Maybe you're overthinking conversations from 3 days ago that you shouldn't be. Or maybe you're emotionally flooded and you just can't come back down. Now, that's not you being crazy. And I see a lot of people tagging on like the ADHD label. And I'm not saying that ADHD doesn't exist, but like, can we just assess whether we're chronically stressed first before we go to something like that? Because your brain is doing exactly what it's been trained to do under chronic stress. There's also an emotional and a relational impact to chronic stress, and this is where it hits a little deeper. It affects your capacity to connect. When you are in survival mode, you are not available for nuance or vulnerability or presence. So that's why like you're maybe a little snappy with your kids or your partner without meaning to. And then of course it's accompanied by shame for having that reaction in the first place. You say yes when you want to say no. You don't feel safe asking for help. Like, good Lord, that'd be the worst thing ever, is if you ask somebody to just give you a little bit of help. You're isolating or you're people pleasing, and you feel resentful but like stuffed down. Like, does that sound familiar? This is especially true if you grew up in a household where typically emotions were unsafe and love was conditional, or boundaries weren't modeled. And so your nervous system learned to equate over-functioning with safety, which means that now, even when you want rest or connection, your body is saying, nope, not today. This is a nervous system response, and it is not a personal failure. We as a society have not been taught how to do these things. I was not taught how to do these things up until, within the last 5 years. Now, the stress loop and why it sometimes feels so hard to kind of get out of, and this was like a true light bulb moment for me. Stress becomes a habit. The brain wires in patterns to be efficient. Again, like the brain is so smart. Now, the more often that we repeat a stress response, like by overworking, people pleasing, numbing with social media or alcohol or cannabis or perfectionism, the more automated it becomes. So it goes something like you experience a trigger, so that's conflict or criticism or like tough deadlines or uncertainty, and then you perceive a threat. Your brain's like, uh-oh, like not safe, danger, which means your nervous system is then activated. So you get into fight, which is like that anger. You're feeling a flight, which is anxiety. Freeze, which is mean like you're shutting down completely, or a fawn, which is over accommodating and people pleasing, which then gives you the behavior that you then react with. So you overwork, you lash out, you shut down, you scroll, you drink, you fix. And that gives you temporary relief, right? And then the loop is reinforced. So of course it feels hard to change. It's not just a mindset thing. It's literally a full body pattern. So what do we do? How do we get out of that shit cycle? And I want to say this with complete love. You cannot think your way out of chronic stress. You do have to feel it in your body and feel your way through it. The way forward is through the body, through presence, through creating safety. And this is where I started and now where I guide my clients to begin. And then that makes the rest of their journey that much easier. So we create awareness. We start to notice what the go-to stress response is. Is it fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? We start tracking what triggers it and what you do as a result of that trigger. And then we teach you regulation tools. Your body needs evidence that it's safe now. Like I took somebody through a private breathwork session, and she said it was the first time that she had ever felt calm in her entire body. Like, that's wild, but I understand that too. But your body needs evidence that it's safe. So we use breath work. We use humming or vocal toning to activate the vagus nerve. We spend time in nature. We get vitamin D on our skin. We shake it out like a Taylor Swift song. We take long exhales. We splash cold water on our face or do cold plunging like I do. Now, like those all might seem small, but when they're done consistently, they actually send a very powerful signal to your nervous system. And then we work on micro restoration. These are tiny moments of safety and stillness that rewire your system. Like something as simple as sipping your tea without multitasking, right? Like sipping your tea and checking your phone. We're going to stop that. And I still do it too. Like I'm still working through a lot of these responses. Or you can lay on the floor and just feel your body sink into the surface below you, or feel your feet right now on the ground and like scrunch your toes up and let them release. Feel that contact. We also want to focus on honest connection. We heal in relationship. Now, whether it's a coach like me or a therapist or a really good friend who has the capacity, let yourself be seen. That alone can begin to dissolve the survival pattern, and we go farther together. And so my final thoughts for you on this is like, if you've been stuck in this chronic stress loop, like all of the things that I've just mentioned are kind of like, oof, yeah, that sounds like really true for me. I want you to know that it's not your fault. It makes so much sense. Like you were never meant to carry this much alone. But I also want you to know this, that you can unlearn it. You can feel safe again. You can come home to yourself, not just like conceptually, but physically, emotionally, relationally. And if you don't know where to start, that's what I'm here for. So if this episode landed for you, come find me on Instagram or send me an email or check out the website. I'll link everything below. And I'll send you details for my stress to steady audit, which will give you a great snapshot of where you're holding stress and how we can start moving through that in really safe ways in small incremental capacities. You deserve to feel well. You deserve to feel free, and you deserve to be held while you come back to life. If this episode has resonated, I would love to hear your feedback. I would love for you to rate and review. I'd love for you to share this with somebody who needs to hear it, like somebody that you know who is feeling like chronically stressed, just send them this. Let them have a listen and know that I'm here to help. And in the meantime, breathe it in, be deliberate, and please be good to yourself.